The girl opened her eyes to a soft yellow light and a low murmur of voices drifting into her room. Waking, she slowly became more aware of her surroundings. She was in a dimly lit room with blank, gray walls and a single bed on which she laid. A tall man in his mid-60s entered the room. His beard was white with age, and his smile was warm and inviting. His clothing was bright white, and his eyes were dark orbs that shone with a childish glow.
"Hello, child,"
he said to the girl. She stood, and gently placing a hand on her shoulder, he led the girl into a large room. Covering the walls were doors of every shape and size, pictures of various people, and landscape paintings that looked to be moving. On one wall near to her was a large, dark oak door with no other adornments within 3 feet of it. Something about the door seemed to pull her in. Like a moth to the flame, she walked towards it. When she touched the handle, a shiver went down her spine. The caretaker materialized beside her.
"I would not go through this door if I were you. Only dark things lie beyond it."
Then she was led away. Armchairs and sofas lay everywhere. Assorted rugs from every culture draped the floor. And once she noticed the hum of many people in the room, chatting. Some listened quietly from the floor, others preached from the lounges, and yet more sat in deep debate on the love seats. The girl looked around, only to find one empty chair.
"Go ahead. That one's yours."
As the girl sat down, she suddenly remembered herself.
Where am I? Who are these people?
The man only gave her a smile and a small sigh in response. She looked around for someone to answer her question. It seemed the room was bigger than expected. Hundreds of faces bloomed around her. The farther she strained her eyes to find the edge of the room, the harder it was to see. A buttery haze seemed to cover the far end of the space, leaving only the nearest wall to her visible. She listened to some of the people near to her chair. A young man with beautifully rich skin and a mop of black curls turned to the girl.
"Hello, are you new?"
Yeah.
The boy smiled at her and gave out a small laugh.
No need to look so startled.
But where are we? Why am I here?
We're home. It's like a hotel we never have to leave. A place to stay after you die.
I'm dead?
Sure. Try to remember how you got here. What was the last thing you were doing before you woke up?
She tried to remember, willing the fog in her mind to wash away.
I remember waiting for someone. And snow.
Do you remember anything else?
No.
Just then, a couple walked into the room with the white-bearded man.
That's the caretaker.
The girl watched as he seated the 2 young figures. As she continued to look around the room, she realized that everyone here seemed to be fairly young, except for the caretaker. Later, as she sat and talked to the others around her, the girl saw 2 people walk up to the dark oak door. Opening it, they went inside. The girl followed. Inside was an empty room, with a writing desk full of papers and a closet door identical to the one from which she'd come. Save for herself, there was no one in the room. She looked into the closet, and the room repeated itself. In the middle stood the couple.
What is this? We're not supposed to be here.
The boy turned to her, a look of fear on his face. The girl at his side clung to his elbow, her eyes tearing up. "How do we get back?" She turned back to the door which she came from. When she tried to open it, it was clear that it was locked.
We don't.
The 3 kept going from room to room. Every so often they'd stop and try to read the papers on the desk, go back through the door they'd just come out of, or sit and rest. The papers were all written in foreign scripts, and the door was always locked. So onward they went. Room through room they trekked, the scenery never changing, every detail the same. After what felt like several hours, or possibly a day, the the room changed. Sat in the middle of the floor was an old woman.
Hello? Traveler, live, conquered, forbidden, pretty you live, traveler, welcome you, traveler. Hello, pretty people, welcome, this is where I live. I have conquered this land and lay claim to all who live in it. But the traveler, traveling through it, traveler's king, forbidden, forbidden, traveler, welcome, where I live, conquered, you live in it, traveler, live in it.
In this particular room, the woman had strewn the papers everywhere, crumpled and uncrumpled various pages, and flipped the whole desk upside down to make a nest of sorts. The wallpaper was stained, and a single word was written on the wall.
End?
How long have you been here?
It could be years, weeks, hours, I'll never know. Time has no meaning, the room never ends. All you can do is be, and be I shall do, for it is all you can do. Out of time, space, and time, weeks, hours, shall you never know, never end.
The three looked at each other. Silently, they agreed to keep going and hopefully find the end. And so, the girl started to make her way to the closet door.
Wait, not yet. I am alone, let me come with. I can't stand another day in this room alone. Please, oh please, let me come with you. Please, come.
If there's an end, we'll find it together.
And so, they left the ruined room. For what felt like a millennia, they went on, room after room after room after room, with the same desk and papers, the same empty brick wall, the same soullessness as the last.
Obscure, lonely space and time, obscure, haunted, lonely space, time, angels. By a route obscure and lonely, haunted by ill angels only. Obscure, obscure, haunted by ill angels only. Out of space and time, time, obscure time. Haunted, haunted, haunted space, obscure time, lonely angel.
Will you be quiet? All I can hear is your nonsense.
I thought about what the woman had said. There was something familiar about her words. Thinking, I faintly remembered a poem. What was the author's name? Edgar Allan Poe?
She said aloud, surprising the group.
Yes, I think that was his name. Yes, I remember. Dreamland by Edgar Allan Poe.
The boy walked up to reach for the same door he'd come to many times before. It was barely noticeable, but the moment he touched the handle, the room went cold, and the air grew still. He opened the door. Before them stood a single staircase amid the vastness of the void. It went up and up, never seeming to end. The stars around them reflected off the stairs they stood upon. Spirals of color shot out and were sucked back in by the great cosmic clouds of lace. As the small group started up the stairs, no footsteps were heard. The void deafened it all in its perfect, undisturbed silence. The girl looked to her companions, motions on her lips. Nothing was heard, but somehow there was a knowing. They had to keep going.
My head was light on my shoulders, the quiet accentuated by the loudness of the color around me. Along I went, leading the group. I went up and up and up. Never once did I fear falling off the railingless stairs. The thought never occurred to me. I only knew that I was to move forward, that I had to find the end.
Suddenly, the air around them grew stale, and the color drained from the stars. An emptiness swept through the travelers. Below them was the sound of their own footsteps.
What's happening?
Spiraling into existence was a host of demons with long, spindly tentacles of dried black ink. They looked to be made entirely of the dark crystalline substance and collected shadows. Each limb reached out like a tree branch and sucked the color out of the world.
I ran, up and up and up and up the terrible, horrible stairs. The stars winked out, and behind me I heard screaming. I was on my own, and I was afraid. They took the girl those things, and they sucked all the color from her lips, all the gold from her hair, and the shine of her eyes were gone. Behind them, they left a dried, blackened crust. There was no time to waste, so I ran, one leg in and out the next, and in and out, and up and up and up and up and up without pause.
Ah!
Demons!
The woman tripped, and the creatures came upon her, sweeping up her body and shaking the color away. The air grew colder, and a frost crept up the stairs.
Run! Run!
From the distance, a single star regained its lights. The demon squealed louder before the last of the sound was washed away.
Children!
A voice sounded from the star, which seemed to come towards them now. It was the caretaker. As the star grew closer, the ink demons began to burn, fizzling under its light.
Children, you've gone past where you belong. You are lost in the somewhere place now. This is the last I can protect you from the monsters that lie beyond me. If you wish to come back, you must move forward. Be still in fear, and remember, you are your own. Go now.
The star drew back into place. The void regained color, and the footsteps below the standing forms made no sound. The boy looked back at the girl who had fallen.
He spoke to me, but I heard no sound. But in his eyes, I saw that he had loved her. Looking at the woman, I felt ashamed. I never even knew their names.
She nodded to the boy, and the two continued up the stairs.